Mayor,
Here.
Mrs. Rollins is here as well. Can I have a motion to approve the minutes from September 16th meeting?
So moved.
And I second. Mr. Meyer
Yes.
and Liz Rollins is a yes. Why don't we go ahead and start with the financial report?
Sure.
And then
So the way we're sequencing this is, I'll start off with high level overview, and then Jess has been doing her work drilling down into kind of the details of where are those red flags you want to keep. So I'll just kind of summarize the memo and the findings. So this month we are, if you look at our dashboards, you can see we're slightly behind from projection on state revenue sources. That is a function of our district was pretty savvy in how it set up its debt payments for the 2018 referendum. So in 1 year, had we set it up traditionally, we would have probably lost 15% of our state aid and hit the threshold every year. But because of the way it was set up, we only get penalized every other year. So, and when you get penalized, the state splits your money into, they'll put it in one account that says this is your state aid, and then they send you money in essentially a different account that says, and this is the additional state aid that you get for being held harmless. Okay. Those two revenue streams come at different times. So it's like every other year, our timing of our revenues line up. So what I've discovered is we're probably always going to have, when we look back year over year at revenues and what month they arrived, if we just look back 1 year, it's always going to be a variance. And if we look back 2, it's going to sort of match up. So that's what I'm seeing here this month. I'm not concerned about it because, as you know, the state certifies our total aid. And so from a how much money are we going to get standpoint, at the end of the year, it's essentially locked in. That's different from some other states. So in Oregon, for instance, they count their students every month. And so they have to try and they're estimating their aid based on what might happen with student counts each month. And so in a state like that, they're like really more hyper focused on what their state aid is going to be because it's not locked in. On the expense side, we're slightly starting to revert to the mean on our purchase services, but I think Jess is going to highlight that. What I've discovered is the culture of our district for a long time has been so far I'll call budget managers to land their plane and it doesn't really matter so much what was budgeted versus what was spent in particular categories as long as they got their plane landed. Now that we're focusing on, I'll call it objects is what the WUFAR term is. So not only how much is the department spending in total, but where are they spending it? There hasn't been that focus before. So where there's some growing pains there as far as we're working through some budget adjustments with some departments because let's just say, for instance, they lumped all of their significant part of their budget into just materials. But now they're spending it not out of materials, they're spending it out of purchase services or computer work. So we're going to be making some of those budget transfers so that these anomalies don't look significant, so that they're aligning where they intend to spend with where they're actually spending. The real highlight this month is so September is the first month that we have 2 payrolls for teachers. So kind of the first time we're all in as part of the scope. And we were like ever so slightly trending in the positive on salaries and benefits at the end of August. We're even slightly better now after 2 payrolls in September. So and that being our largest driver, that's the thing that I'm always like most keyed in on. I am really curious to see how October and November go because we're implementing the change in health insurance. And so I'm gonna have to kind of play with the algorithm a little bit since we've never collected money back on premium share. So that's just something for us to be aware of as we go forward. Maybe I'll halt and then Jess to do her part because if there's any questions, that'll probably be coming.
What is Mike doing now?
He's not waiting yet. I'll send him a.
The other thing quickly, and I asked you this last night, can you, in a future finance meeting, kind of more explain the negative state aid and how Wabash Hills is sort of an outlier because we make those debt payments every other year?
Sure.
Just add that to the meeting. Thank you.
And how that's really through
Oh, it was
financial
really
management.
strategic.
What we use that. Some people, these guys were too happy with
Yeah.
us about that, but if we follow the law, it's well, it goes. So.
And Mr. Bryden did give us the finance, but I think it's helpful to that specifically if the referendum passed again.
And I think are you asking, Ms. Rowland, for two different things? I'm hearing about the alternative year debt payment piece, but I'm also, and please correct me if I'm not hearing this correctly, but I'm also hearing you ask about what is the negative tertiary aid impact?
Oh, yeah.
So it's two,
It
it's
is.
both. Okay, thank you.
And explain, please, as I understand, my understanding is not correct, say so. That has to be actively managed with how we spend, and it's not, I remember a assignment in, school business officer class, figure out how to keep below.
Right.
I mean, it's something that just doesn't just happen. You have to keep an eye on how we do things when we're at the boundary there.
Correct. You want to, once you know you're going to hit what they call the hold harmless.
Mhm.
At that point, I don't want to be flippant. No matter what you spend, you can't lose any more state aid. So those are the years that I'll give an example. Let's say we have a roofing project and we're deciding, are we going to do it in June or July? We would pick to do it and spend the money in whichever year it was that we already were. Thank you.
Right, and so your variances, you might need to move something,
Mm-hmm.
and to the person without context, it might look not good, but actually it was purpose.
Precisely.
Financial reason, right?
Thank you. Yes.
You're back yet? Oh.
I texted him. That's kind of odd.
Am I able to share the screen? Or does that come through something else?
Is it from the Word docs?
It
Or
is.
give her-
It isn't,
Just a second. He just texted back. He needs the invite.
Can you guys hear me okay?
Now we're good. Can you hear us?
Yep, there we go. Got it. Good. Thank you.
It's supposed to go through the thing, I think, yeah. Liz and Mr. Meyer, do you want to introduce yourselves?
Hi, Mike. I'm Liz Rowland. I'm the chair of finance and the treasurer of the Wabash Hills School Board.
And Mike, I'm Mike Meyer, board member and member of the finance committee.
Thank you for being with us today.
Yeah, you're welcome. Sorry about the technical difficulties here. I apologize for that.
Mike, the other people in the room, you've met many of them, are school district staff, and some of our directors that are going to be giving reports later on about their departments. But just thought I'd tee it up for you. just like to give the board an update of the progress you've made, kind of what your plans are, and just to give some reassurance that we are progressing in the way that we told the board we'd progress.
Yeah, absolutely. So thanks for having me today. I do appreciate it. I'm Mike Coltis from CISA 5, the Director of Business Services here. Just to give a little bit of context very briefly, and then I'll get into your specific project. CISA 5 supports somewhere between 40 and 50 districts around the state in various capacities, primarily with business services, doing a variety of different things from budget monitoring, like in this case, to other projects, accounting, finance, kind of anything that a district sort of, looks for or asks for, where we try to support and help out the best that we can. So, so just to give a brief overview of kind of the project that we're working on here, our idea was to work with Scott and his team on developing kind of an alternative method to approach the budget monitoring process. So Scott has a method that he's using. I believe they also have a secondary method that they're using within the district. And then CISA 5 is kind of creating a third method, which involves a payroll encumbrance process, which essentially takes all of your staff and sort of encumbers the payroll for the full year, so we kind of can project out where the budget is going to land at the end of the fiscal year. So it's another way of, I guess, triangulating all of the budget data versus actuals, and kind of making sure that we're on track to hit what we think the end goal should be. So that's the strategy that we're using. We are in the midst of kind of building that right now, and have been working with Scott and his team on getting the data that's necessary in order to do this. So I would envision in the next couple, like month or two here, we will have something completed, at least in a draft format, to take a look at and compare to the other budget projections that Scott and his team are using.
Thanks, Mike. Any questions from the committee?
So it's probably there, and I probably didn't see it or find it, but is there an engagement agreement and a statement of scope for what they're, to explain to the community?
Yeah.
Just like we heard here, what's happening. So I'm sure we have it. It might even be probably displayed somewhere, and I missed it, so I apologize. But just to highlight it, if we have it, we can share that with people.
Definitely not prominently displayed. Okay. And since you brought it up, I need to circle back. Mike, have we actually entered into an agreement? I know we had talked about essentially time and materials as opposed to, like a set dollar amount. So
okay, well, if I may interrupt, then I apologize, but if not an agreement, a statement of the scope of what he's doing, and your agreement could be implicit or maybe whatever, but just in the substance. I'm not looking to look to whether the procedure of reaching the meeting of the minds of what we're doing. What are we doing? Mm-hmm. So it's written somewhere. What's the scope? The project mission.
I think, Mike, you and I should circle back and get that done, I imagine. Because it's been more conceptual talking. So
I know
you're right,
professionals, you all know, but let's write it down.
We're saying the same thing.
Right. Okay.
Yep, and I have a draft started, which, Scott, I'll get that to you today so you guys can take a look at it.
Okay, thank you.
Right. If people are asking,
sure,
and I ask, well, audits different. What is this?
Sure.
So we can show people it.
Yeah,
and people will be happy to see it. Yeah.
Good point.
Is the plan, for Mike to give us monthly updates to the committee or bi-monthly with staff?
He and I had envisioned monthly updates, probably something like this. The heavy lift, because this is brand new for them too, is getting a process up and running, so that then, am I characterizing that right, Mike?
Yeah, we've done a similar process with a few other districts, but when you set something up like this the first time, it always takes a little extra time to get it going. So that's kind of where we're at.
Okay, now, if it's a new process and you'll need to evolve it as you go along, from my opinion, I don't want to hold you to an original scope statement that, as you learn, let's just keep updating it, and we have versions of it, just so we're sharing, how do we see this right now? Especially if it's a new process, because you will change and look at things as you move along, and I want you to be able to change how you're looking at it. In good faith, I know what you're doing, so, yeah.
Thank you.
Well, if there's nothing else, we can move on to
Perfect.
the next agenda item. Thank you for being with us today.
Yep. Thank you, guys.
Hope all's good in Portage.
Thank you. You guys too. Take care.
All right, bye.
Bye.
It's not snowing now yet.
We can move to the Director of Finance, financial report.
So just like, Mike and C5, we're kind of creating this process, so it's still work in progress. So any feedback would be appreciated. So what we did in August, actually in September, we provided the Director of Finance report that kind of shows the red flags.
Do I give you sharing privileges? Yes. I'll just make you a co-host. Yeah.
Oh.
It'd be nice if Google Meet and Zoom and all of them would just have the sharing in the exact same spot.
Accuse each other. So they gotta put it somewhere different.
So this report was shared in September. And in board docs, you have the, going through September version. So this is going through August. In board docs, you have through September. What I thought we would do is go through this, and review where the red flags are. And then I've also compared it to the most recent report to see if it's still a flag or if it has dropped. So starting with 310, I dug into the accounts. As you'll see, there's a pretty significant variance. That's primarily made up of a remaining TOSA task force invoice that was paid, which was $54,000, and then also a Qualtrics public-facing dashboard invoice. As we look at September's report, the change in percentage is actually coming down. So at this point, I'm not concerned about it. But we'll continue to watch it next. You go to the 320, the property services. This is primarily made up of the buildings and grounds budget. Kevin and I have been working on his budget. He does not see that he's going to overspend. However, the budget amounts are not necessarily where we think we're going to spend. It's a result of him just inheriting the budget that got rolled over a couple years in a row. Objects 340. This summer, we did have AP instructional staff training. That was approximately 15,000. When we look to the more recent report, it's no longer trending in the wrong direction. That actually drops off. Object 350 communication, we have a fiber connectivity project. I know Jane can speak on more of that. 360, we now have frontline software for the financial transparency, which we've not purchased before. In August, we were looking at 171%. Can you see my mouse? Okay. So 360, we were at 171%. Looking at September's report, we're actually down to 87%. So again, trending in. For 370, the payments to the non-governmental agencies. This is primarily made up of Title 1D grant expenditures, which do get reimbursed. Not concerned about it. 410 supplies, we had $63,000 in science tax. Again, this purchases were going to be reimbursed. And looking forward, we're already trending down. 420 apparel, this is primarily the athletic departments of high schools, is again trending down. It's a timing issue of when the purchases were made. Object,
This year they decided to have uniforms before the season.
yeah. That's in a good way. Our 440s. It is trending high, but the total budget is 316,000. So when you look at our variance, it's not concerning at this point here. Object 560. We purchased 2 Chrysler Pacificas with ESSER 3 funds. Again, going to be reimbursed. So when you look at this percentage of 13,000%, we know what it is. Object 670. We made a change mid 23-24 to a new copier provider, which changed how we're doing the billing. So you'll see that there was a trend of year to date of $0. We now have some spending there, but it's not concerning. It's just coming out of this account rather than in Fund 27. This object 170 that's labeled TAC technician, it's comprised mostly of classroom aides, guidance staff, and our TOSA employees. This is an area we want to watch. However, our overall salaries, when you roll it up to the 100 level, is not trending high, but this specific one is. So we will continue to watch it. 310 has already dropped off from August to September. Compass Care subscription last year was paid in July. I'm sorry, it was paid in July this year. Last year it was paid in September. So it was just a timing issue. 340, the transportation. This is again, timing of bills. We've already switched from 132% down to 57%. I imagine by next month, it won't even be a concern. And 370, tuition paid to Norris and Richardson. These look like they're new charges this year, which we can look into more. But again, it's trending down. Any questions on those? Okay.
One, I spent some 30 years in IT, and in the last couple of years, one of my healthcare providers was hacked, ransomware, system shut down. My car deal, they couldn't service my car because the ransomware people had taken over their system. We, I know we're in good hands, but I just want to voice, we cannot ease up on our vigilance. And I know Jamie is always vigilant, but so for everybody else, this stuff, I would hate to wake up one day and find out that none of our students and teachers can get into our systems. And because somebody got through our security somewhere, and there's people all over the world trying. acquaintances who are bank auditors and CPA firms, and that's a regular thing they have to be vigilant for, these hacker people taking over their systems. And so it's happening to everybody it is scary what's going on, so we have to, it costs money to defend against it. Then still no defense is perfect. So just to voice that here, that we don't always keep attentive and vigilant on that as far as our staffing and our software. I've spoken many times about IT staffing needs to happen. You know, I even spoke to the uninterruptible emergency power East High School, because that's where the service are. Should people remember that? So that's my voice for today. Thanks.
So at this point, I'm gonna ask that we get the rec departments and then move back up to the staffing plan after we hear.
I always like to talk about the rec department for that department that kind of does things a bit differently. Real exciting. We are coming up to this Saturday. We have our trunk or treat, special event. To go back in history a little bit, the rec department solely had ran the trunk or treat for a number of years. COVID hit, took a break for obvious reasons. And then coming back after COVID, our bandwidth for trying to adjust and trying to handle things, we weren't able to put that back onto our plate. The city, mainly the police department, last year had brought it back to the surface. They had held it over at the parking lot by the library at the city hall. We were a tabling organization there. My coworker, Jenny Cobb, had a conversation with Abby at the police department and talked about like, okay, we used to do it, you're doing it, let's join forces, which they know that's always been something that I've been trying to push is how do we start working alongside of other organizations within our community, serving the same community. So this year we are partnering with the Wauwatosa Police Department as well as a number of other departments of the city. We'll be on property here, which is what we've done in the past. So really excited to have that. It's going to be 11 a.m. to 1:30 p.m. on Saturday the 19th. And as of right now, the weather is looking to turn and be a bit more pleasant, temp-wise than what we've been having. A number of, so we have roughly 30 trucks have organized that will be part of it. We have 2 food trucks. We have the police department, the fire department, and public works all being present with vehicles to help kind of more of a touch a truck idea. Next steps will be there selling popcorn to help support them. We'll have a face painter as well as we will have a DJ there to kind of get music going. It's a DJ we work with their ATM. So, yeah, really exciting to kind of get things back and going. So that's something around the corners. You guys are in the area. It starts at 11, goes to 1:30. So if you guys are in the area, definitely welcome you. Another area that we've always worked closely with in regards to food drives is Post Cares, who happens to be positioned out of the church right across the street from us. So we'll also be asking folks to bring and donate items, which in the past we've done a food drive. And that's always been a really big push for the community. So we're excited to do that as well. So great things happening on Saturday. Another thing within the rec department that we're working on is taking steps forward for streamlining our onboarding process. So the HR department, part of the school district academic side, has moved forward with FileBound, which is all the electronic paperwork when you're onboarding. The rec department, it's always been something I've been dabbling in, kind of bending ears, like how do we join on with that? So we have been working with FileBound for the last several months, if not 6 months, going through different stages, going through automated messages that go out. Great process, great procedures. Sarah, Leah, and Megan and Nathan have been great with guiding us with what they've done, with working to get this all taken care of. So we're a few weeks away from completely launching that. So we'll move from paperwork, believe it or not, to electronic, which is great. So in the past, we used to be paper timesheets. We're now electronic. We were paper onboarding. We're now going to be electronic. So we're continuing to move the deal, streamline our process. I'm so excited for that. The other part of that is we will now have an online application process, which will be different than what we currently have, which we use Google Docs, which gets put into a spreadsheet that all hiring managers can look at and navigate through. This online application is going to be much more streamlined and completely compatible. So information that they're putting in at the application stage can be also information that can be plugged into fields should they be hired and then go into the onboarding process. So very excited for that. Talked about this last summer, which everybody's aware of, SAC, our Summer Adventure Club program is very large during the summer. It's a great opportunity for us to fill the gaps when schools are closed. This last summer, we had 4 locations. We had Lincoln, McKinley, Eisenhower, and Wilson. Wilson was moving out of the East High School. We had been at the East High School for a number of years. It played its part, but we needed to find a location that had the space appropriate for that age bracket they're working with. Outdoor space, playground space, more accessibility to gymnasiums, not competing with sports camps. So we had moved east to Wilson, which was an outstanding decision. And then Eisenhower was originally a Whitman location. We used to be at the middle school there. And that, once again, didn't have a playground, didn't have any of that stuff. So we had moved to Eisenhower, which was also so total of 4 sites. We had 455 kids that we had serviced throughout the summer at given points. Each site had a total of 2 co-site supervisors. In the past, sometimes we just had 1. We worked very hard on making sure that we had 2 co-site supervisors for logistical reasons and summer dates and needing to be in and out. Another thing that we added were assistant supervisors. So we kind of have a little bit more of an onboarding, which we never had before. They were counselors straight to a supervisor role. So every 2 of the sites had 2 assistants and 2 of them only had 1. We had a total of 51 counselors total for the whole 4 sites. We had 21 sub-counselors. We have a lot of subs because there's a lot of logistics these days. A little bit harder to put the puzzle pieces for scheduling than it's ever been in the past.
Matthew, are some number of those also likely Wauwatosa students?
The number of participants or
No,
staff?
the number of workers.
The workers. So the one thing that we have continued to do, which other agencies have not, is that we are able to hire mainly college and older.
Okay.
A lot of agencies have very young staff. There's not a right or wrong answer to any of that. We've been able to really onboard and hire college and older. But we started dabbling into that junior, senior year, high schoolers, just because the workforce is having to go that route. So, but yeah, they are the high school students.
And if not, they probably were high school students.
Oh, without it, or even more, which we love because they tell the stories. They were participants at one time, and now they're coming back as a counselor. So, which is what a great way to close a circle, is them wanting to come back to the program that they were in, and they just have a blast doing that. So it's really fun to watch that during the summer. All the great opportunities that they have. So very large. That's our largest staff base. I mean, obviously we've got a plethora of programs, but that's our largest one there. So great program. The one thing I'm going to challenge the staff on for is how can we continue? We've done good by adding a 4th site. How can we continue to make sure that we're making spots acceptable, and how can we continue to challenge ourselves? Can we continue to hire more staff, even if it's up to the 11th hour? How can we continue to do that? Because the amount of participants really dials in the staff we have because of the ratio, or how many staff we get, the ratio. So continuing to challenge ourselves, continuing to be there to help the community the best of our ability is really the challenge that we've got there.
So there were some requests for sites this year.
Yeah, but they're really minimal. So I can say the wait list, if people were placed on the wait list, a week after, several days after registration had already started, they might have been ones that unfortunately, maybe the choices that they wanted weren't available. But they hit the ground running with the ones that were, within days or hours or minutes. Like they know right away that we tend to jump on that. Yeah, so they do a really good job on that. I would love to say that we're able to accommodate everybody, but the reality is we're just not able to do that. Yeah. So-
Did the summer school locations change then? Because I know, or were you just picking kids up?
Yeah, we did transportation. Correct, yeah, we did transportation. One area of spotlight that I would like to point out as well is starting in our summer guide, and we are now going to have religiously in every guide moving forward, as I work closely with Stacy Clem. We needed to kind of close the gap in regards to how are we, so I envisioned with her, some of you might have heard this. I wanted it to be where somebody opens up an activity guide or goes online, and if they want to sign up for a program, they can say they can sign up for a program, and we're doing our very best to accommodate with support and in whatever fashion. What is unique in regards to recreation department being within school district is the special education department and the folks that work with students and work with the school district during the school months and school hours. How can we harness that? In other states, recreation departments have associations or auxiliary groups. We're in the same organizations. How can we harness that? We're closely together. We have a statement in our activity guide now talking about, read it through, but it's within the first 2 pages of our table of contents talking about accessibility, how can we be there for the families and the participants within the community. The other thing is we presented a Google form that staff within the school district that would like to get involved in any of those fashions can answer a number of questions in regards to ability, ages and grades, programs that they're interested in. So when a participant were to reach out to us in the gymnasium, we'll see that, we'll identify that, then we can go to this list and go ahead and contact people based on that and try to partner up and pair up. So trying to close the gap on that has been something that's taken very seriously, and there's always work to be done in the right direction. So I thank Stacy for being on board and collaborator in this space.
Has there been any outreach to like the Best Buddies organizations? I know we have a lot of student volunteers, like would they be able to assist in that, or do they really have to be like?
They don't have to be certified. We would like that, but they don't have to be certified. We have reached out to those groups and we have contacts with them, but usually those ones that are, those groups are involved in a number of other things. So the consistency with the schedule sometimes is not something that aligns. Unfortunately, seen that. Because sometimes you get 1 week or a 1 hour class, 5 weeks in a row. We don't want there to be a gap where there's the third class, just nobody's there. So then that puts it on the parents and or the initial.
Can school board members volunteer to help them?
Yeah. Yeah, definitely would have it out.
Because school members are already busy volunteering all the time.
If I could go and play soccer and help somebody be able to play soccer and one of their activities, I would definitely spend a Saturday. So.
Yeah, I mean, and on that note, so before I move on to the next one, I work closely with some consultants that are in this space on the recreation and park side of things. And, you know, one of the biggest ones is everyone says, well, I'm not certified, I'm not trained. You don't have to be, in most places, you don't have to be certified to train. You have to have the attitude and you have to have the open mind to know that I'm helping an individual and somebody else to be involved in a space where sometimes they're totally left out in the dark. So trying to change that narrative.
Thank you for your work on that. I think that
Yeah, and
is amazing.
there's still work to be done. But I'm excited that that's something that we can be placed in there, because there's never been any language in any of the recreational guides website, in the past. Yeah, thank you for mentioning that. One final area that I would like to touch on is more the recreation coordinators as a whole and their professional development. That has been something that I'm very strong on, trying to change their mindset of getting involved. So I'm happy to say that the recreation department, while a small team, has a representative in the safety committee, the health and wellness committee, somebody that's already signed up, and I saw the document for the net zero committee. So they're definitely wanting to be a seat at the table for the recreation department and all of the big things that we have going on. On a side note, myself, I attended during the summer certification program. It was a 3-year association had provided. I have 2 coworkers that will be graduating from the Leadership Academy, which is put on through the state association. They will be the first 2. There's a total of 3 in the history of the rec department that is graduating from the program. And they will be the 2 last one, which some of you might Janelle McGee, she was a past employee of the school district and the rec department. She was the third, but two of them are current. I'm very excited for them. And then for myself, actually, Scott knows this, my name is on the ballot for the state association, being on the board of directors. Running unopposed, so I will fall into the position.
That's the best way to put it.
Makes it
I know that.
Yeah, yeah.
He's really in trouble if he doesn't hear.
Yeah, very, very excited. But the joke is the last two secretary treasurer positions have been the board president or the state.
So they put you on the presidential track.
Oh, with that, and I'm totally open to that. I welcome that. And history lesson, the only other person that has been was her baby back in 2003. Outside of that, history wise, nobody else has been getting into that point. And the reason I'm doing this is because I think Wauwatosa has a uniqueness to what we do here on the state level, but hugely on the national level. Last week, I had the opportunity and pleasure of representing Wauwatosa at the National Parks Association Conference up in South Atlanta. I love having conversations with people. It's very unique in regards to several all within the school district. They always stop me like, oh, so you have superintendents, yeah, Parks and Rec, LA, all these other ones are like, tell me more. Tell me more. So I love being in those conversations. Very exciting things going on. I always love to share it. So if you guys are ever interested in wanting to have dialogue on that, I welcome it.
Just my opinion. It seems to me that you are too much a closely guarded secret.
So now you're gonna let it out?
Right. That, and I say that, you know, it's a humorous way to say it. As you know, you hear, the relationship between community and its recreation is phenomenal. And I would encourage you to be, I don't know, maybe you want to have some community forum. We have all these community forums over difficult things. Let's have a community forum over a happy. And you know, have I don't know, I'm getting out of my lane here, but the school board, the full school board meeting to have, you know, time for Matthew and open the public comment for recreation department questions. So, I mean, I saw recently on one of the social media groups, well, gee, is there any place where, you know, we can find an indoor basketball court to play? I try to stay off a lot, but I like call the rec department. That's what people don't know that. I mean, and we're doing all these wonderful things. I know you're at the senior commission. Your folks are there, and so I think not to give you more work to do, but I think you know we need to put you out there with people interacting, give you more opportunity to connect with people, to let them know what we're doing and the services we have. I think we can do it and put that really good foot forward here. I mean, yeah.
Yeah, the only thing I would say is we're incredibly grateful for your leadership in this.
Yeah.
In our community. So the more people that know about the great work that you're doing, and Mr. Mike. Sincerely, thank you for your work.
I hope it's fair to say you are quite a good match for this community. This philosophy about recreation, service, and things. Thank you.
Appreciate that.
And with that, I need to officially leave the meeting.
So you got to hear.
Yes, this is why I want to hear this. Is also happy. Thank you.
Mr. Meyer, feel free to follow up if you have any questions.
But I will, of course, thank you.
So we will move back to 3A staffing.
So I think that was just provided by,
Okay.
I was asking.
Oh, right.
Information.
Okay. So Mike and I can review that and then give any updates for it's needed. I'm sure she'll be giving an update to the full board as well.
The logic is that as you've heard from Mr. Ecker before, 75 to 80% of our staff, our overall operational costs are associated with staffing. So Ms. Zelazowski has provided an update to where we're investing our full-time equivalencies for FTEs, and you have to break down by both certified staff and education assistants.
And then I believe this is also the same information that's available online to the public. And then she will be attending these meetings quarterly, but then also the full board.
Yes.
Updates on the net zero energy committee. Is that Dr. Mean?
It is me. I shared with the committee members, but also Mr. LaFontaine, Ms. Anker, and Mr. Ecker, a list of community members who have volunteered to be on the committee. There's a total of 23 community members who have said that they want to be on the committee. We have not discussed how you want to whittle this down. Candidly, I was not expecting 23
Right.
applicants. And if you read through the column, which is column G, I have experience in the following areas. Some of them are extremely impressive. And so I'll leave that to Mr. LaFontaine and the committee, this committee, in terms of how you want to proceed. It may be prudent for everyone just to kind of pick their 10, to narrow it down to 10, understanding that everyone can't make meetings, but they have a committee of 10 and knowing that that's going to, you may get you'll get 70 to 80% of that on a meeting basis. That would be my recommendation on how to move forward. But I think you'll be impressed. There are people who are either very interested in this space or have professional experience.
When is the target beginning of meetings with this group?
I would recommend that you try to start meeting with them in mid-January or February. So it still gives you some time.
My only other recommendation would be to engage Dr. Worley. She's going to be the board rep for the subcommittee of this.
That's
So,
great.
would like to engage with her. She too. And I can, Dr. Means, if you want to share this with her, and then we can connect.
Be happy to.
Yeah, actually, because we're board members, it'd be best if you actually engaged with her.
So,
So that's her and I are going back and forth. So if you want to share this with her and then come up with I'm comfortable with what Dr. Worley wants to do. So if you want to take that and then you and Dr. Worley.
procedurally, why don't you, I meet with Dr. Worley at noon today. I'll let her know that you'll reach out to her, that the two of you will narrow down this list of 23.
She's an expert, so I completely.
No, that's a good, I like that strategy.
Next is financial services.
Yeah, so this is a new item for the board. This is, I think we've normally done updates, like Matthew's done an update and Jamie's done an update. But it's not run some offices. The finance director has never done an update about the operations of that office. So I wanted to have Jess do something similar to Matthew and Jamie, and just talk about kind of her goals and objectives. For those that are wondering, what is it Jess does every day? She might talk about that a little bit, but I want to give an example of something she did today, that she may or may not, I may steal her thunder, or she would be like, I wasn't going to talk about that. So we have a department meeting. We had one on Monday, I think it was, and we heard about some ways we might be able to service our students better in the lunch line, essentially. And yesterday, Jess was out at buildings, watching kids go through the lunch line, watching how our food service workers attended to them. And I know then this morning she was on a phone call with the elementary principal group, already talking about some solutions to service the students better. So I'm guessing that falls under other duties as a sign, but that's just kind of a good example of who Jess is. She hears about something she knows that she can help with, and the next day she's out at school.
Thank you. I was not gonna talk about. I was gonna highlight, our team though. We have 5 people on our team, not including me. And they are phenomenal. And, between the 5 of them, they have combined 47 years of TOSA business office experience and over 63 years of TOSA. So I think that speaks a lot to our team. There's been some turnover over the past few years between Scott and I's position, but they have helped. With them being so consistent, that contributes to the deep institutional knowledge, so that when Scott and I have a question, we know they have a history of why it's been done that way. It also contributes to the strong culture. You know, oftentimes you can probably walk down the hallway and hear good laughs coming from our department. It also turns into a higher productivity, reduced turnover costs, and a stronger relationship with the team here, and I know who to call. I know who's going to do that. So overall, our team is awesome. But then within our team, we have a grant that helps us district-wide maximize our grant dollars, ensuring that we have a high level of service to any of our teachers or any of our departments that work. That makes it easier when our staff wants to apply for a grant. They know they have somebody that can help them manage it. And the compliance, the reporting, submitting the claims, and making sure that we're efficiently using our goals. We would like to complete a fee manual for our admin assistants. This is another resource for them to reference when they have questions. They have a knowing that all the schools are doing the same thing, and it's a first place for them to get their question. Sure, and I've been working on that, and we'll have that finished here in the next couple months. Another goal, which is also a challenge, is our budgeting amongst the school sites. So when I started looking at each school site's budget, it looked like it had just been rolled over from year to year to year. And I couldn't figure out how each site got there. When I looked at it on a per pupil basis, it looked like some of our elementary schools had $289 per pupil, and other schools had only $230. Now, I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that. There was probably some spreadsheet that had a lot of different factors, but I couldn't help. So we are now moving forward with trying to equalize this, making it equitable. So maybe we need to reduce percentages. But also with some of our budget constraints, we are also looking at doing a zero-based strategy. So asking each school to really outline what it is they need for the upcoming year and really pinpoint what, why, how it's going to help their school. And then looking at maybe that's why schools have different pupil amounts because they have different needs. So that's something, that's our challenge. Their budget.
Can you give a little bit, so when you say per people, can you give a little bit, an example?
So then the schools use that to purchase supplies, to purchase subscriptions, to this, they might, extra pay. Schools are not equal in the number of positions they have, lunch duty, something I saw yesterday. So anything that they have kind of discretionary.
You're hoping to kind of align that across the district instead of having it these sides. Each school is doing it completely different than maybe the school. Do you think that you'll be able to get that more aligned with by the end of this school year, or is that a longer goal?
The goal now is to have every school have what they need going forward for 25-26. It might not be an equal dollar amount per student.
Which I think Dr. Means has also stressed. Staffing at our schools, that it doesn't have to be the same amount or the same total staff. What that, to reach all. I appreciate that.
Jess is working on her business manager license I'm her intern, whatever, mentor.
Yeah.
Learned that it doesn't involve her getting a coffee. I'm still responsible for that. But one of her big projects is going to be researching what plans do districts, that in particular multiple elementaries. That's where we see well, that's what we have, right? And that's where it's difficult to align. So she's researching what other districts do. I would imagine, we're not gonna get to, I don't think we want to get to a point where every country has the same amount of money, or even necessarily the same amount of money per pupil. But what Jess was referencing is, we can't tie back any rationale of why Wilson has this and why Eisenhower has that. And I think that's really the focus is, all right, let's be able to say, here's why.
My daughter will be happy that you worked on lunch lines, because she complains that she can't get like sweet treats lunch because the lines are too long at high school. So I'm sure that she will be grateful for any efficiencies you can find. Thank you. Did you have
Which
any?
high school
Is that East?
has she been to the radar room?
I will ask her.
What grade is she?
She's a junior. She knows what the radar room is.
Well, they now offer some snacks down there, plus they'll fully reimburse you, Might be sort of line. I think it's juniors and seniors.
I will have to let her know, because she'll text me like, can you bring me a sweet treat in the middle of the day? I'm like, no, Sarah. I cannot. But anyway, anything,
That's open 2 weeks.
okay, I will. For the inside. Creation permit, so state equalized aid update.
Yeah, so as Dr. Means was saying on Monday night, we were refreshing, seeing when with this. Just got into work earlier than me yesterday, but I still beat her to this because I happened to check it at the right time, and she checked it too early. So we were comparing notes there. So our state aid was certified yesterday at $18,283,778. We had been budgeting, so roughly 18.3 million. We had been budgeting approximately 18.8 million, so we're roughly $500,000 under what we budgeted. Now, that's not lost revenue, because the revenue limit is based on property tax and state aid. So it's one of those like balancing scales, when one goes up, the other goes down. From a taxpayer standpoint, it would have been great news if it had been up $3 million or something. It would have been horrible news if it had been down $3 million. So we're within pretty. One thing I'm glad that we sort of stuck to is our original budget of roughly 18.8 million. When the DPI July 1st estimate came out, they were estimating our district at over $20 million of state aid. And because our aid is tied to the prior year spending, it was my recommendation after consulting with Jess that we not inflate our budget to what DPI was estimating, given we knew where our year ended and they didn't know where our year ended. So when we calculated, we thought it would be closer to that 18.8 units, 18.3. So now we can move forward with essentially the final pieces of our budget for the board to certify the tax levy on October 28th.
Does that have have a significant impact on the tax levy?
$500,000, it's a 5 cent mill rate. our mill rate is still, I'm sorry, I should have brought this up. It's still anticipated to go down about 29 cents.
Um, 25, 26 budget calendar, just to.
So that was was presented to the board. Any feedback on any changes or adjustments? Rather than have that be a board discussion, I thought if anyone were strong about it, they could bring it here. And the only thing, that I want to give us an update on that is some of the dates are, HR dependent, so I just wanted.
Okay.
And it says that it's draft scheduled with certain date changes, but I want to just touch base with her that if it says February 17th, does it mean it's February 17th, or is that what it was every year, so it should be the 19th?
We did we have update financial transparency tracker.
Yep. And there hasn't, that's live, so I just have this on here every month, so that anyone can see where we are with it.
Okay, public comments, reviewing. Okay, bylaw 0167.3. This, Mr. Meyer and I discussed this a little bit, just making sure. I'll review this before the next meeting and then email. Let's see, or Julia, any updates. Okay. And then we don't have anybody in the room for public comment today. Just a reminder to the public that this committee will be, in a way to be more transparent, we'll be taking public comment at the end of these meetings on a monthly basis if there are attendees. Okay, our next meeting. This is November 20th at 10 a.m. 10 to noon next, or sorry, on November 20th. Mr. Meyer had to leave, but I'll still call to adjourn.
Are you gonna call the roll?
Yeah, I guess I second that, and it passes. We are adjourned at 11:10 a.m. And I agree. We are all set. Thank you.